right, guys, welcome to First and Faloney. This is our Week 10 edition. Joining me, as always, we have the man himself, Andrew Cooper, and a special guest here, a legend in Indiana, the Indiana circuits. We got Dan. Dan, how's it going, man?
Good. How are you guys doing? Thanks for
What's
having me.
up?
It's fun to be here. I'm going to add a little inside of comedy, I guess, to this podcast. Not a college football connoisseur, so here we go.
And of course, we're having him on because of the big Notre Dame game this week. Clemson at Notre Dame, probably the biggest test for them and the biggest test for Clemson all year. Before we get started, though, let's go ahead and start off with the game of the week that we have here. Do you guys have a game of the weeks? I know the last couple of weeks, you and I, Andrew, both have struggled to watch some college football with life events, but catching up on highlights and everything.
Yeah, I'm gonna go West Virginia game, TCU.
Yeah, I watched most of that game. It was close. The West Virginia should have covered. That was a BS touchdown with the last 10 seconds.
Oh, I take that back. The NC State game was a good one too.
Yeah, and you were there. We had boots on the ground on Thursday Night Football, NC State versus Tech. Boring game in the first half, and then the freshman quarterback came storming back in the second half and led you guys to a victory. The future's looking bright.
Yeah, little.
What about you, Dan? Do you have a game of the week?
Yeah, so I caught a little bit of the Cincinnati UCF game just based off of, now living in Florida, Fort Myers, and I have a coworker that graduated from University of Cincinnati. So I caught that game just so I can banter back and forth with the guy from a colleague from work. But the game started off pretty slow. First half was a little long. It was 10-0 at half. And then the second half, things got pretty exciting with some turnovers. Had a couple punts, some touchdowns. And then UCF ended up getting a safety on UC. And final score was 25-21 UCF. So I consider that an upset. And, of course, I called my colleague as soon as the clock ticked 0, just to banter back and forth with him and maybe talk a little smack. So it was pretty fun.
Yeah, I think UCF and Cincinnati both deserve to be in a bigger conference. I don't know if UCF should join the SEC necessarily, but I think they should maybe do the ACC, both of them. I think they would be good fits for both. Maybe Cincinnati goes to the Big 12 to be that West Virginia rivalry there. But yeah, I mean, West Virginia or Cincinnati's kind of fallen off, and to see UCF, they're always kind of like a consistent throughout every year.
If you don't mind, I could tie in a little NFL football with University of Cincinnati. So the Indianapolis Colts drafted their stud wide receiver last year, Alec Pierce, and he is doing absolutely amazing. Well, for a rookie in the NFL in Indianapolis.
Yeah.
So good for him.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and later on during the year, we're going to join another podcast and give our first round draft picks for the future for this year as well. So be on the lookout for that. We'll go on to the next thing because we got a lot to talk about tonight. I think, in my opinion, Hendon Hooker kind of separated himself from the field for the Heisman candidate. Tennessee blew out Kentucky, a good Kentucky defense, compared to prior Heisman frontrunner Will Levis, who only had 96 yards and 3 interceptions on a not so good Tennessee defense. I think this weekend's game is charged up. But do you guys see any other candidates for potential Heisman going forward?
Only other one I see is C.J. Stroud.
He didn't even look that good versus Penn State, though.
It don't matter. It's Ohio State, and they're ranked number 2. I'm telling you.
Yeah,
it does not matter.
That's a good point. I'd put Drake May up there. I know you don't like that, but I'd put Drake May up there. He's lighting it up, and then Blake Corum. But I think Hooker is the one.
Now, I will say if UNC wins the ACC championship, yeah, he's got to be a contender.
I don't see why they won't. I don't think Clemson's that good.
Well, I hope they don't.
That's a bold statement, but
I hope the wheels fall off the bus real quick.
I think just based off of Hendon Hooker stats, watching him play against Alabama, I think that put him above, probably 2 steps above everybody else in the field. With the stats, the teams that he's playing against, I believe probably against this weekend when they play Georgia.
That's the test.
This will probably be the weekend that will solidify him as number one candidate for the Heisman this year.
Yeah, that's the test. And that kind of leads us into our next topic of discussion. College football rankings just came out tonight. We record on Tuesday nights and the show comes out Thursday mornings. So we delayed our recording just to see the top 6 teams. And we'll go down from 6 to 1. We got 6 Alabama, 5 Michigan, 4 Clemson, 3 Georgia, 2 Ohio State, and 1 Tennessee. So we're gearing up for a 1 versus 3 matchup this weekend at 3:30 in Georgia. Tennessee's biggest test on the road. A thing that before we talk about that game, I have a couple stats for that. But what are your guys' initial thoughts on the top 6? Should there be a different 5 and 6? Should Bama be a one-loss Bama be number 6 over an undefeated TCU? Is Clemson too high? Is Georgia too low? Any initial thoughts?
Clemson's way too high.
Yeah,
I'm just excited to see a team other than the Big Four. I consider the big three or the Big Four is Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, the Big Four. So to have Tennessee as number 1, I think that's going to bring more people in to watch college football because now there's more parity within the games and then within the rankings. So,
in my opinion, I think Tennessee's earned it. They're the best sound football team that I've seen play this year.
Yeah, both of you guys make great points. Tennessee's schedule has been insane, and they've crushed every single matchup.
And as a guy,
I still think I would.
Go ahead.
I still think I'd have Alabama over Clemson. Clemson's not where they need to be. I don't care what anybody says. They're playing in a weak ACC this year. The best teams really right now in the ACC, unfortunately, is Carolina and Clemson. Nobody has really pulled themselves away or separated themselves other than them two.
Mm-hmm. I just think as a fan, as a casual fan, they're tired of seeing the top 4, the Big Four, the same. Not necessarily in the same order, but as rankings. So to get a Tennessee in there, yes, they're good. Yes, they earned it. But as a casual fan, to see another number 1, I think that's going to bring more eyes onto college football.
Yeah,
and get everybody more excited now because the kind of the lull of Alabama, Georgia.
Yeah,
those guys playing, or number 1 or number 2 every year.
And it seems to go in strides like this because a couple of years ago it was just Alabama, Clemson, and before that it was just Oregon and Florida State, and Alabama in there as well. So it goes through strides. I agree. I think this year would have been a great year to do the 12-team playoff. We've said it before in the past, and that's what kind of worries me that they put Tennessee at 1, thinking Georgia's heavily favored this weekend, and. Next question I want to ask you guys with these rankings, whoever loses, Tennessee or Georgia, do you still have them in the football playoff, or are they looking on the outside at the 5 and 6 or even further back?
Still in.
He doesn't want to answer it.
I think there's whoever loses this football game this weekend will still be in the top 4, just based off the toughness of the teams, the toughness of their conferences, how well they played this year. Now, if one of them goes out and lays an egg, that's going to be a different story.
Right.
But if it's a competitive game, I believe that they will still stay in the top 4.
Well, let me ask this. Let's say Tennessee loses to Georgia this weekend. Does that separate Georgia and the SEC East? Because they still play Bama, don't they? No, Bama's in the West, right?
No, so this is basically the winner of this game pretty much goes on to play in the championship game. I think Tennessee has Vanderbilt and maybe South Carolina.
They got
maybe, I don't know. So basically, whoever wins this game I don't think they're going to lose anymore. That provides that question that we had a couple weeks ago. If you have a one-loss Alabama team versus a Georgia team in the championship, means Tennessee has one loss, and Alabama beats Georgia, do you put all three of them in at one-loss teams versus an undefeated? At that point, you could have an undefeated TCU, you could have an undefeated Clemson, you could have an undefeated either Ohio State or Michigan. So that raises that question:
Yeah,
is
I
like,
can
do
tell
you
you.
put
I
in
can
three
tell you.
SECs?
I can tell you.
I think they do.
I can tell you
They
what they're
do.
going to do. They'll snub. No, they'll snub Tennessee. They're putting. I'm telling you, Bama is not getting left out of the top 4 before it's all said and done.
No, Nick Saban will throw a fit. He'll throw a fit, but
Can I ask a question?
yeah,
Yeah. So, like I said, as a casual fan, watch from the outside. You got the top 4. You got Tennessee, Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson. Okay. Tennessee is a good football team. Tennessee has a good football program. But where were they at last year compared to this year? And then
leagues beyond.
And then to tie into that, does the NIL have anything to do with the players that are coming in?
It doesn't, because Heupel is a second-year coach, and NIL didn't come a thing until right at the season start. So NIL wasn't a massive factor. A couple big names switched, but not a massive factor. It'll go on for next year. In Tennessee's recruiting class next year is top 5. Heupel, everybody trashed that hire a couple years ago when he got hired, but that is a good point. But I think that goes the opposite way against Tennessee. I think that goes against Alabama, because Alabama lost some recruits, lost some star potential to Texas A&M. That was Jimbo and Nick Saban.
Yeah, I knew that was their risk with that.
And Georgia lost a few, but Georgia also gained a few as well. So the NIL is going to throw a wrinkle into everybody's plans going forward. The December transfer portal is going to be insane. So our show right around that time, Andrew, we're going to be covering massive transfers of everybody. Everybody's going to transfer. Either Klubnik or DJ's going to transfer from Clemson. We know that. Like,
yeah, I got my money on DJ.
I think Klubnik's the better quarterback too, but I think I can see DJ going to Chip Kelly's offense with DTR leaving and then balling out.
For the right,
yeah, because he'll be
I know,
back.
right? I mean, shoot, give me $10,000 and a Hattie B's chicken sandwich, and I'll go kick for Vanderbilt right now. So, but yeah, I mean, it's exciting. First week of the college football rankings come out. I think when they announced at the beginning of the year that the 12-team playoff will be in before 2026, I think this year's going to show that they need to have it done by next year. Even if the initial rounds, the people get blown out, I think the top 8 teams would be a great competitive factor. I thought Oklahoma State could have been in there, but then they laid the goose egg against Kansas State. But I think Oregon's number 8 and TCU 7. So the top 8 teams, I can make an argument for the playoff. Not a good one, but I can make one. But I think it would have been great to see all of them together as well. But we'll go ahead and get into the games here. We do have a lot of games to cover and some big weekend games as well. I have a bunch of my initial picks written down, but I'm kind of like on the fence on some of them. So bear with me as well. We'll go ahead and we'll just start from the top. We'll go Oregon State at Washington. Washington is 4.5-point favorites. Both of these teams actually surprised me this year. Washington's offense is really good, but their defense is
I'll tell you what.
A wet paper bag. So go ahead, Dan. What you got on it?
I'm going to tell you why Washington's defense is good. Because
Washington defense is bad.
Their offense. I'm sorry. Offense. I'm sorry. Their offense is because Michael Penix Jr.
Yes.
Michael Penix Jr. was the starting quarterback at Indiana University IU, and he was the catalyst player of that team. But they just couldn't build around it.
Yeah.
And so then he left, goes to Washington, and that is the reason why Washington's offense.
He's good. He's had a couple goose eggs of games, which is their losses. But you're right. He was in the Heisman push at the beginning of the year. Yeah. And I think he's top 15 quarterback in NCAA, which is pretty good. Like, if you have that, you have a chance, right?
That's my 2 cents on the show.
There you go. No, I like it. So who do you guys got? Do you got Oregon State or Washington? This is one of the ones that I was coin flipping, but
Washington.
you got Washington. It's hard for me to pick it because Oregon State played so well against USC, and I think their defense is good enough because I think Caleb Williams is better than Penix. But you kind of convinced me with Penix. I'm still gonna go Oregon State, but it's one of those that I'm not sure. It's an underdog. My underdog picks, Andrew. It's the last couple weeks have been screwing me over, so you know how that's been.
I'm going Beavs.
Oregon State as well. So we got 2-on-1. Watch us. This is the game day situation where everybody picks the one team and except for the one person and they win, right? So that's what's gonna happen here.
So I could be the guest picker.
Right, exactly. So you'll win this one here. Next we'll go. Let's go to the Big 12 here because this one kind of intrigues me. Right, we have Texas Tech at TCU, and TCU is favored by 9.5 points. But Texas Tech, Andrew and I have been high on all year. Their offense is really, really good, and so is TCU's. But both defenses are not great. So this one, even though it's a 9.5 spread, I'm the Oklahoma State fan in me wants to pick Texas Tech, but I'm hesitant right now.
Yeah, the Texas Tech won last week.
Yes. Yes, I think they're good. I can double check.
I just don't think their defense is going to be able to keep up with TCU. I'm taking TCU.
Quentin Johnson's hurt was what concerns me. For that, but let me check here real quick. Dan, do you have any?
Yeah.
any
While you're looking at that, I'm going to go ahead and pick TCU just based off of I like when the fans and the students in the section they get the little horn frog deal. So TCU.
Yeah, I want to go against everybody here. Are you picking TCU, Andrew?
100%.
Would I be stupid? All right, I was almost not stupid when I picked last week when I picked West Virginia. And that it should have only been a 3-point game, not a 10. So I'm one of those things where where's Texas Tech? I'm gonna go with TCU. I'm changing my pick that I wrote down, but I'm marking this as a trap game. I think Texas Tech is a lot better than people think, and you and I both have been high on them all year. But yeah, I'm gonna go TCU. Yeah, I'll stay with TCU. I don't see their game last week. Maybe they had a bye week. They might have had a bye week last week actually. So I'm gonna say TCU as well. So we have TCU across the board. You guys know what that means as well. That means Texas Tech's probably going to win. We'll stay in the Big 12 here. We'll go Baylor at Oklahoma. Oklahoma's quietly having a resurgence. They won again last week. It's gonna be a shootout game, I think. That's gonna be one of my locks as well. The Baylor versus Oklahoma over 57.5 points. But I have Baylor. Oklahoma's favored by 3.5 points. It's at Oklahoma. They are having a resurgence, but I think Baylor's defense is just a tiny bit better. And I think it's going to be a field goal game. It'll be less than 3.5.
I got Baylor as well.
You got Baylor as well. I'm just not high on Oklahoma this year. Like their defense might be the worst in the Big 12, and that's bad. So
I'll go ahead and take Oklahoma on a coin flip.
yeah, I mean that's what it is at this point.
And usually I like to add in a little sidebar to that too. I think Oklahoma has a better pregame show than Baylor when they bring the horse and trolley out.
There you go. You don't like the sick and bears.
No, sir. So Oklahoma.
Oklahoma. Okay. All right. We'll go ahead and just knock out all of the Big 12 games here as well. We'll go Texas, who's favored by 2.5 points at Kansas State. Kansas State's defense is really, really, really good. Like they've showed out against every single team that they've played. Their backup quarterback's just as good as their starting quarterback. Their starting quarterback is the runner, Martinez from Nebraska. But Howard has a cannon of an arm, and what Kleinman has built at Kansas State is great. Like it keeps that tradition of Kansas State ruining programs at the end of the year. I think Kansas State is a sneaky one of the top 2 to 3 teams in the Big 12. But with all of that said, all of that Kansas State praise, Quinn Ewers is my guy, and I like Texas to win this one. You guys are both quiet on this one. Did I not convince you? Did I not convince you? Kansas State's defense is great. Their quarterbacks are great. Deuce Vaughn, the Mighty Mouse, 5'6" running back, is one of the best running backs in college football. But Quinn Ewers is a different Texas team.
No, I'm taking Kansas State after what they did last week to your Pokes or whatever they are. I just think they're going to try to rely too much on Bijan. Bijan's going to get stuffed, and then it's going to be an air raid attack. And what I saw last week with Kansas State dropping 8 in the box, that defense played really well against Spencer Sanders, so I'm taking Kansas State.
Yeah, well, Spencer Sanders has been playing hurt too, but that's fine. That's me rationalizing that blowout.
So I'll go ahead and take Texas just based off of Quinn Ewers and his mullet. And I believe I caught maybe 1 or 2 series that he played week 1 or 2.
Yeah,
and he looked good. And I don't remember who they played, but with the mullet coming out of the back of the helmet, I thought this guy right here is my guy. So Quinn Ewers, Texas.
What worries me about this game is Kansas State's pass rush is insane, and Quinn Ewers under pressure. He's young. I mean, he's a redshirt freshman, sophomore quarterback. But I think they get it done. I like Worthy. I like Bijan. I don't like that it's at Kansas State, but I'm sticking with Texas. That's it with the Big 12. Let's go to the non-power 5. I stuck this game in there because both programs are pretty good this year. I thought Coastal would be better, but they're not. We have App State, who's favored by 3 points at Coastal. Coastal had a great year last year and the year before, but they've kind of taken a little bit of a step back this year. There wasn't really many other great games throughout college football, so I had to stick this one on so we could get 10. I have Coastal winning this, of course, underdog once again. I'm picking, but I just like Coastal. It's at Coastal. You know how that is down in Myrtle Beach, a team coming down there, the white trash Vegas on the beach.
Well, yeah, you got Kenny freaking Powers down there. So I mean, what else could go wrong?
Right.
I don't know, man. Both teams have really good, quiet quarterbacks. I like both with Grayson McCall, and I do like Chase Bryce.
I like McCall to be a good NFL quarterback.
I just think Bryce, he struggled. I think he had the one good game against who they upset Texas A&M. Wow. And then the following week was a Hail Mary.
Yep.
I'm going to take Coastal Carolina.
I'm going to stick with Coastal Carolina too. I don't have any.
The mullet gets you again with McCall.
I had no idea he had a mullet, but thank you. But I'm just going to go with I like their colors.
Yeah, their field is beautiful,
and I like their field too. Their field is unique, so that's the only thing I can go with. Coastal Carolina.
Yeah, I think it'll be a good game. That'll be a fun game to watch. That game is on Friday. And for people who are watching our show, we do have Tuesday night football. As Maction is back on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. There is college football. So most of November there will be either NFL or college football, like I said last week, for almost all of November. So great for us before we go into the 200 days of drought of football. All right, well let's go to the ACC here. We'll stick in the ACC. Andrew, we'll go ahead and knock out this game here. We have Wake Forest, who's favored by 5 points, going into Carter Finley to play NC State. This one, it's a 5-point difference, but I wrote down Wake initially. I'm crossing it out because of how bad that they lost to Louisville.
I just watched him cross it out.
So. Yeah. So if do we know if what's his name's playing? MJ, is MJ playing?
He is the starter on the depth chart.
Is he?
No,
I like
MJ
him.
is the starter on the depth chart.
I think he found his groove, and I'm switching my pick to NC State. Just
Wow.
because and Hartman's a better quarterback. Right now, Hartman is a better quarterback. But the way that they lost to Louisville last week, like they lost bad to a bad Louisville team. I know they have Malik Cunningham, but I'm switching to NC State. I think the freshman gets it done. I think Thayer Thomas scores more touchdowns. I think he inches closer to the record. So that's where we're gonna go with for me. Another underdog. Shocker.
Yeah, Dan can go before I express my thoughts.
This is his team, by the way. This is Andrew's hometown team.
NC State is your team?
He was at the game last week versus Tech. Yep.
All right. Well, it's a good thing this is our first time meeting because I'm going to go with Wake Forest. And the only reason why is because NC State lost to two ranked teams this year. I think there are only two losses. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep. Clemson and who's the other one?
Syracuse.
And Wake Forest, as of an hour ago, was 21st. So that's a ranked team. So I'm going to go with Wake Forest against NC State. Sorry, Andrew.
I couldn't agree anymore. I'm taking Wake Forest.
You're picking Wake?
Tell you why. Absolutely.
Libby's going to kick your butt.
Yeah, I know. But MJ got lucky last week. Virginia Tech defense kind of faltered at the end of the game. New coach, but I'm telling you, there's no way NC State secondary is going to hold up with Sam Hartman and those quick receivers on the outside. The only thing that's going to help, I think, NC State is going to be the home field advantage if it sells out like it's supposed to be. And it's an 8 o'clock game.
Night game at Carter Finley. That's feeding into my theory, buddy.
14 consecutive home wins, but after last week, watching what I watched in the first half, 21-3, and coming back,
that second half,
not
defense,
taking anything away from
that second half defense, man. Thomas on the defense, the Thomas brothers are balling out.
With the hard set.
Yeah, well, you can't give up 60 and 70-yard passes because I can tell you Hartman's going to drop him, and he's going to drop him very easily.
Yeah.
So I'm unfortunately taking Wake.
Yeah, I'm sticking with it. At night game at NC State. If it was at Wake, it'd be an easy pick for me. But that one was a coin flip as well. All right, let's stay in the ACC. This might turn into Clemson's ride or die this season. We do have two Notre Dame fans here on our side of the camera as well. We have Clemson, who's 4.5 favorites at Notre Dame. This is Clemson's chance. Now, Notre Dame blew out Syracuse, and Clemson had trouble with Syracuse. I'm going with Notre Dame. Marcus Williams this is his win. He's finally got the team believing.
Marcus
Freeman, excuse me. You're right, Marcus Freeman. And I like him. He's a great coach. This is where Drew Pine shows out. Drew Pine had a great game last week. We have their running backs are amazing. We have the best tight end in college football. Notre Dame at Notre Dame. If it was at Clemson, I'd probably pick Clemson, but it's at Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame wins
it. You sold me, Donovan. Notre Dame. So I grew up when I was a kid. Was wake up, have breakfast, Saturday morning cartoons, clean the house, and then you had a choice to make. Either you sit down with your dad and you watch Notre Dame football, or you go outside and play. Notre Dame football was what I grew up on. So I'm picking Notre Dame to beat Clemson. They beat Syracuse, which was a ranked team, a top 10 team last week, right?
Just outside the top 10.
Okay, well they were a high ranked team last week. They beat Syracuse in the Carrier Dome. Now you got Clemson coming to South Bend, Notre Dame.
I think Rudy's going to go crazy. I'm taking Notre Dame.
I think Klubnik comes in the second half. I don't see how he doesn't. So, all right, we got 3 games left, and they're all ACC or SEC games. Shocker, the league that runs them all. We'll stick with the least exciting one out of all of them. University of Florida at Texas A&M. Both teams are not good this year, but it's a good quarterback matchup. Texas A&M started the freshman last week, even though they lost, and he threw for 300 yards and 4 touchdowns. That scares me with this game. I like Anthony Richardson, but I don't know how the state of Florida football is right now with everything that's happened this week with the release of one of their defensive players, the loss of their number 2 recruit. I'm not sure. So I'll let you guys speak on this because I've been picking first. I'm not going to pick first because I have a team written down and I don't like it.
Go ahead, Andrew, while I look at his team.
Unfortunately, I got to take Jimbo.
Go ahead and write A&M down for me too. Just for the reason alone is my wife and I, we went to the Outback Bowl a couple of years ago, and the student section for A&M is just absolutely crazy with their cowbells, and it was a good experience. So I'm going to go ahead and pick Texas A&M just because I went and watched them play in the Outback Bowl a couple of years ago.
This week was the hardest games I think I've had to pick. I've been struggling with wins the last couple of weeks.
Sure as hell ain't easy.
So you know what? After the game of last week, I think Anthony Richardson bounces back. I think Florida wins. I'm gonna go ahead and pick the underdog again, Florida. I think Jimbo has a worse record than Kevin Sumlin, and he's been getting paid twice as much. I don't like it. I don't think Jimbo's the fit there. I think Texas A&M needs to move on. I'm gonna go with Florida. I don't like that pick. All right, we're gonna move on. The game of the week. There's 2 games of the week here, and we got 7 minutes left, so we'll run through one of them pretty quickly. We have Bama, who's 13-point favorites at LSU. It is a night game in Death Valley. Does that change anything for you? It should, but it doesn't for me. I have Nick Saban in Alabama. I think that after the Tennessee loss in the close game to Texas A&M, I don't see Bama losing, and they're trying to get into the playoff. It is night at Death Valley.
I've got Bama.
Bama, just because Brian Kelly's Southern accent is not very good.
Don't get me started on Brian Kelly. He should have been fired from Notre Dame 5 years ago. Okay, and then the game of the week, Tennessee at Georgia. This is a 3:30 game at Georgia, which I don't know why they didn't flex it to the night game, but Georgia is favored by 8.5 points. You already know who I'm picking. I'm riding the train. I've been riding the train for about 4 weeks now. I'm going Tennessee all the way. They're 8.5-point underdogs. I don't care. I think Tennessee shows out, and if they don't win, they're definitely going to cover. So I think that I'm picking them to win it all. I'm picking them to win outright. But I don't think Stetson Bennett, if it gets into a shootout, because apparently Tennessee's defense is good from last week, if it gets into a shootout, I don't think Georgia's offense can handle them. What you got, Coop?
Dan can go. I'm still thinking.
So I listen every morning. I listen to Indianapolis sports radio, and obviously the Indianapolis Colts are not doing very good. I know this isn't a pro football podcast, but let's just go ahead and throw that in there. And our quarterback situation is not very good in Indianapolis, and everybody is high on Hendon Hooker to come to Indianapolis when he's ready. So with that said, when Andrew Luck was at Stanford and Indianapolis had the #1 draft pick, we had a slogan, "Suck for luck." There's a slogan going around Indianapolis, "Look at Hooker." Tennessee over Bama because Hendon Hooker.
All right. It's a tough game.
The only thing that scares me about this game, man, is the 2 beasts of tight ends that Georgia has between Howard and Brock Bowers.
Does it change anything? The Tennessee's second biggest donor bought the remaining 2,000 tickets and is going to just give them out on Tennessee's campus this week.
Well, I'm not done
because he was quoted in the news saying, "I wanted Georgia to feel like it was a Tennessee home game."
Yeah, dude, I'm gonna be honest with you. Hooker's look really, really good this past 4 weeks. I mean, he's playing. Yeah, you got Hyatt on the outside.
Who
At
might
least my
even go into the Heisman race. I mean, Hyatt's balling.
yeah. It's going to be close. I'm going to say a field goal, but at least my mom isn't a hooker. I'm going to Tennessee.
Are all going Tennessee there. We're all riding the hype train. We're all probably going to be wrong because Georgia's defense and Kirby Smart. We don't know, but
Can I add one more point to that?
yeah, go ahead.
So who was the greatest quarterback to come out of Tennessee?
Peyton Manning.
Where'd Peyton Manning go? Indianapolis.
Indianapolis.
Let's go.
Feels like 90-80, he's Dan saying. Okay, before we end the show here, I'm going to run through 7 locks of the week. I'm 22 and 19 on locks of the season. You guys can chime in whenever you guys want. I had Tennessee plus 8.5 versus Georgia. That kind of goes since I think Tennessee's going to win outright. I had UNC beating UVA by more than 7.5 points. I have Mississippi State and Auburn going over 52.5 points. I have Baylor and Oklahoma going over 57.5. Donnie overs over here. I have Oklahoma State and Kansas going over 65.5 points. I have Oklahoma State -2 over Kansas. I think they beat them by at least 2 points. And then I have Tulane beating Tulsa by 7.5 points in that game as well. Do you guys have any other picks, any other statements here before we end the show?
Yeah, I would take that UVA UNC bet all day long. UVA can't score a touchdown.
They haven't scored over 20 points all year, and Drake Mays might be silently having one of the greatest college football seasons of all time.
Who was the other one you said? Auburn was one. They were going to score 50-something points.
Yeah, Auburn and Mississippi State together will go over 52.5 points, so at least 53 points. Will Rogers, baby. Will Rogers.
So
Brian Harrison just got fired from Auburn as well. So
are you saying that Mississippi State's going to score 42?
Yep.
Or at least 45?
Mm-hmm.
No, I wouldn't take that one, but that's just me.
I almost put Liberty on here versus Arkansas, but I just don't trust Hugh Freeze enough. So
you just got that big payday.
Well, that's the show, guys. Thank you so much. We appreciate you watching. Remember to like, share, and comment on YouTube. Follow us on Instagram. Be a friend, tell a friend, and if you didn't like it, we'll just keep on moving. All right, we'll see you guys next week.